Welcome, everyone, to our latest market update. The entire financial world, it seems, is just holding its breath, waiting for that next big move. So today, we're going to dig into what's causing this standstill across stocks, crypto, and precious metals, and, more importantly, what it means for you.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. If you've been watching the charts lately, you've probably felt it, right? Global markets are in this weird state of suspense. It's almost like the entire financial system has hit the pause button, caught between two massive developing stories that could really send things flying in either direction. And here are the two big reasons why. On one hand, you've got the Jackson Hole Symposium coming up. That's the annual meeting where the top central bankers, they love to drop hints about where the economy is heading. And on the other hand, you have these super high-stakes global peace talks, where just a single headline can cause these huge, unpredictable swings. Together, these two events have created a holding pattern, and we're going to break down what that means for your strategy. All right, first up, let's talk U.S. stocks. We're going to take a look at how all this uncertainty is playing out in the U.S. market, which has been giving a masterclass in, well, basically going sideways. Now, this slide gives us the clear lines in the sand that traders are watching. For the S&P 500, you're looking at 6,265. For the Nasdaq, it's 23,000. And for the Dow, that magic number is 47,500. These are the key support levels, the floors that have been holding up pretty firm. Now, a close below these levels for 2 days in a row, that would be a pretty strong signal that the sellers are starting to take control. But until then, the market seems happy to just hover.
So what this really tells us is that while there's no big panic going on, there's also just no real conviction, no energy to push prices higher. I mean, this is the very definition of a wait-and-see market. All the big money is just sitting on the sidelines, waiting for some kind of catalyst from either Jackson Hole or those peace talks. Okay, next up, let's jump into the much more volatile world of crypto. Because while stocks are kind of just sleeping, digital assets are wide awake and actively testing some very, very critical support levels. And first, of course, is the king itself, Bitcoin. Right now, it is parked directly on top of a major technical support level. And honestly, this makes it a real make-or-break moment for its short-term trend. So what's the game plan here? Well, this slide breaks down the tactical approach you need. Look, just because it's holding at a key trend indicator, that isn't really a buy signal by itself. The analysis suggests waiting for a confirmed move above 116,000 to even think about a new position. On the other side of that coin, a clean break below 112,500, well, that would be your signal to cut any losses. It is all about waiting for confirmation. And it's a similar story for Ethereum. It's had a nice bounce from a key support area, but believe me, it is not out of the woods just yet. It's now facing its own wall of resistance. For Ethereum, the strategy is almost identical, just with different numbers. So it used that 4115 level like a technical trampoline. It bounced off it beautifully. But a new buy signal? That's probably not going to trigger until we see a strong, decisive move above 4410. And that same 4115 level, that's now the critical line in the sand for stop loss. Again, patience is the name of the game here. And finally, for our crypto check-in, let's take a look at Ripple, or XRP. After getting knocked around a bit, it does appear to have found some temporary footing, but the outlook is still, well, it's pretty murky. So the main word for Ripple right now is just caution. Yeah, it's found some support around the 2.85 mark, but that's not really enough. You'd want to see it show some real strength by getting back above that 3.0 level and, more importantly, holding it before a new entry should even be considered. With everything else going on, this one just carries a bit of extra risk. All right, let's switch gears and see how all this global uncertainty is hitting the traditional safe havens, precious metals. You'd think with all this tension in the air, they'd be absolutely soaring, right? Which, of course, leads us to the big question, the one a lot of investors are asking themselves. With all the geopolitical risk and economic fog out there, should we be loading up the truck with gold and silver? And you know what? The analysis points to a surprisingly clear and direct answer. And that answer is not yet. It might seem a little counterintuitive, I know, but there's a really strong reason for this. And here's why. The main issue is that gold and silver are just way too tied to the geopolitical situation at the moment. Their prices are reacting wildly to every single negotiation headline, making them incredibly unpredictable. And there's this major risk of a sell the news event. That's where prices could drop sharply as soon as a final decision is announced. Doesn't matter if the news is good or bad. So even with silver finding some support at that 37 level, the risk is just too high right now. So, after looking at stocks, crypto, and metals, what's the overall takeaway? How do you actually position yourself in a market that just flat out refuses to pick a direction? We can boil this whole thing down into a simple 3-step action plan. First, monitor those key levels we talked about for every single asset. Know your plan. Second, and this is always the hardest part, practice patience. Resisting the urge to do something is a strategy in itself. And third, just wait for clarity. Let the market digest the news from Jackson Hole and the peace talks before you even think about committing capital. And really, this quote says it all. In a market that is driven by pure uncertainty, sometimes the most profitable move you can make is no move at all. Strategic patience is a powerful tool in your arsenal. So, we'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on as you watch things unfold. Which of these two massive forces is going to be the first domino to fall? Will it be an economic signal from Jackson Hole or a geopolitical bombshell from the peace talks? The answer is probably going to set the trend for weeks to come.
And that's all for today's Market Explainer. Hey, if you found this breakdown valuable, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us create more content just like this. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.